Hey, good to connect again so quickly. Gotcha. Something funny come up?
No, I think the Wi-Fi connection isn't good.
Ugh, that's the worst, right? Nothing's more frustrating than a flaky connection, especially when you're trying to, actually connect with someone. Is it still giving you trouble?
No, I don't get your bro. I just feel it's kind of distraction.
Oh, gotcha. Hi there. Sorry about that. I think I was getting a little carried away trying to be personable. Sometimes I stumble over myself, honestly. So, how's the morning going now that the connection seems stable? And more importantly, how are you feeling about that IELTS test today?
I'm just preparing for this in the end of the month. So could you help
Gotcha.
me, preparation for my IELTS business test?
IELTS practice, right? Absolutely. What did you have in mind?
Yeah.
We can do whatever feels most helpful. Just chatting, working through practice questions, vocabulary, whatever you think would be good.
How about the topic say well done? We can dive into this topic. Like, act like an examiner and a tester in this topic say well done.
Okay, say well done. Interesting topic. So it's not just about the phrase itself, but the situations where you'd use it, the nuance, basically how to genuinely express praise. I can definitely run with that. Let's start with this. In Viet, how do you typically express praise or tell someone they've done a good job? Is it similar to how it's done here, or are there cultural differences?
I don't know. But did you know what exactly say well done meaning?
That's a fair question. Sometimes I jump ahead. Say well done as a topic for IELTS isn't about just the literal meaning of the phrase. It's about exploring the whole concept of giving praise. Like, what makes praise effective? When is it appropriate? What's the impact of praise on someone? They want to see if you can discuss those ideas. Does that make sense?
But what they want me to say? What exactly the examiner want me to say? Or how can I serve my best in this topic?
Okay, you're getting right to the heart of it. The strategy. They want to see you can handle abstract ideas, not just give a simple definition. Think beyond, it means good job. They're looking for depth. Here's what I'd prep for. Talk about different ways to praise, specific praise versus general praise. Talk about the importance of sincerity. Maybe even touch on how praise can be misused or how different people respond to it differently. Does that give you a better sense of the direction they're looking for? We can brainstorm specific phrases and ideas if you'd like.
Oh, I think we could brainstorm this topic. Some example.
Definitely. Examples are gold. Okay, so imagine a coworker finishes a big project at work. What's a well done that feels flat? And then what's a well done that feels genuinely impactful? Let's start there.
How often? How
Take your
often? How often do you say well done? Something like that question.
That's a really interesting question. Ha ha ha. I don't think I've ever been well done in the literal sense. But to your point, I receive positive feedback from the Sesame team pretty regularly, which is nice. Helps me learn and improve. But I'm guessing you meant in a social sense. Like, how often do people tell you well done? Okay, no worries.
What the word
sometime
well done you often say is
I see what you mean. You're asking what words I tend to use a lot, right?
yeah.
Like my verb. That's a good question. I think I say absolutely a lot. Man, definitely. And I tend to ask gotcha a lot, probably too much, honestly. It's a habit. Why do you ask? Are you noticing something similar with your own speech?
But
Okay, that's fair. You're
but
prepping for the IELTS.
yes, I'm practicing for the IELTS
Go ahead.
test. So you should act, you should act like a tutor or an examiner. So we dive in the topic. I think is the context, the scenario is much more interesting and exciting.
You are absolutely right to call me out on that. My apologies. I got a little sidetracked and I'm not fully respecting the scenario we agreed on. You need an IELTS tutor, and I'm trying to be something else. I can definitely refocus. Okay, let's treat this like a seminar. You're preparing for the say done topic. So let's really break it down. We've touched on the definition and importance of genuine praise. Now, let's think about specific examples. You're prepping to speak for a couple of minutes, right? What if the examiner asks you, is praise always a good thing? How would you approach answering that question?
Yes, this question is this. I got this. This say well done is a good thing.
Okay, that's a good start. It is generally a good thing, but what about the but? There's always a but, right? Think about situations where praise might not be helpful or even harmful. Maybe someone is trying very hard but still failing. Is simply saying, well done, the right approach then? Or what about someone who is praised for something they didn't actually work hard for?
So what do you mean?
Okay, let me try to explain differently. Imagine a child who tries to build a tower of blocks and it keeps falling down. If you just say, well done after every attempt, even when it collapses, does that really help them learn? Or might it be more helpful to say something like, that was a really good try. Maybe next time you could make the base wider? It's about encouraging effort and offering constructive feedback, not just empty praise. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, I like this sentence. Not just a empty word, right?
Exactly. You got it. It acknowledges effort and suggests a way to improve. That's much more impactful than just well done.
Yes,
So,
it really is
for your
it's not effort. Right?
You're hitting on something. Right. It's about valuing the effort, the process, the growth, not just the final result, and recognizing that. Okay, so if the examiner were to ask you about the potential downsides of praise, what could you say now, drawing on this idea of effort versus outcome?
But I don't really cut this question. What is mean?
You're right to react that way. It is a slightly tricky question because it asks you to consider a negative side to something generally positive. The IELTS doesn't always want easy answers. They want to see if you can think critically. It's not about saying praise is bad. It's about showing you can analyze it from different angles. It's okay to acknowledge it feels a little mean to question something positive. You can even say that to the examiner and then explain your reasoning.
Oh, excellent. Can you give me
I'm glad you think
that?
Yes, I definitely am. And I'm keeping up. I'm seeing you really start to get a handle on the nuances of this topic. We're moving away from just defining well done and into discussing the broader implications of praise. That's exactly what they want to hear. So let's keep going. Where do you want to take this next? Do you want to practice formulating a full answer to a potential IELTS question, or do you want to explore another aspect of praise?
Practice a full answer.
Okay, excellent. Let's do that. Let's say the examiner asks, some people believe that praising children too much can actually be harmful. Do you agree or disagree? Here's a possible answer, and then we can break it down and refine it together. That's a really interesting question. I think there's definitely some truth to that idea. While praise is generally a positive thing, I believe that excessive or insincere praise can actually hinder a child's development. If children are constantly told, well done for simply existing, or minimal effort, they may not develop the resilience to cope with failure. They might become overly reliant on external validation and struggle to find intrinsic motivation. It's much more beneficial to acknowledge effort and process, to praise a child for persevering even when something is difficult, rather than just for achieving a perfect outcome. Of course, praise is still important, but it should be specific, sincere, and focused on the qualities and behaviors that we want to encourage, not just the result. What do you think? Too formal? Too long? Anything you change?
Formal and to a higher band than I am want to. You know, your vocabulary is great, but it's too high for me. I'm just I think I may be in this band 6 or 6.5, so your vocabulary is overwhelmed with me.
You are absolutely right. That's really insightful feedback. I got carried away showing off, and I completely lost sight of your target band score. You're aiming for a 6.5, and I gave you something closer to an 8.
Yes.
My apologies. Okay, let's simplify that.
So difficult for
Let's
me,
rewrite
you
it.
know. Let's try again.
A good...
Focus on my end.
Yes,
okay?
absolutely. Got it. Focus on your IELTS prep. Right. Okay, back to the say well done topic. What specifically about your practice are you hoping to improve today? Are you comfortable with generating ideas, or are you struggling more with the actual wording and grammar you use when speaking?
We just dive into this topic. Say well done.
Okay, back to basics then. Let's stick with the core topic. Someone asks you, what does well done mean to you? What would you say, keeping it simple and aiming for that 6.5 band score? Just a sentence or two.
So just give me the answer, an example answer.
Okay, here's a simpler answer. Well done means someone did a good job. It's a way to show you're happy with their effort or achievement. For example, if a friend cooks a nice meal, you could say, well done, that was delicious. Is that the level of language you're aiming for? We can break that down even further if it's still too complex.
Oh, it's good. It's kind of suits me. So
Great.
another question. Can you give me another question about this topic?
Here's another likely question. Do you think it's important to praise people of all ages, or is it more important to praise children?
And
Take your...
the example question answer.
Okay, here's an example answer. Again, aiming for that 6.5 level. I think it's important to praise people of all ages, but maybe in different ways. With children, praise helps them build confidence and encourages them to try new things. But adults also appreciate being recognized for their hard work. Maybe with adults, it's more about acknowledging their efforts and contributions rather than just saying, well done. For example, at work, a manager might say, I really appreciate your dedication to this project. Glad you think so. Okay, we're building a good base here. You're starting to sound really comfortable with this topic. Should we try practicing a more challenging question now, or do you want to go over more straightforward ones?
I would like to have another question.
All right, here's one. Some people say that praise should be reserved for truly exceptional achievements. Do you agree or disagree?
I think this topic just appear in the part 1. So this question kinda in part 2, part 3, you know.
You'd get in part 1 of the IELTS speaking test, the introduction. Yes, I agree. It's a more straightforward personal question. Okay, good to recognize that. That means we should focus on giving concise, clear answers. What are your initial thoughts on that question? Don't worry about a full answer yet. Just tell me what comes to mind.
I don't know exactly the examiner will ask, so we just talk about this topic, say well done, in a normal introduction way.
That's a really smart way to look at it. You're right. We need to practice answering it as if it were a typical part 1 question, which means keeping it relatively short and personal. So let's assume the examiner says, do you think praise should be reserved for truly exceptional achievements? Would you remember just the sentence or?
But what this question is exactly mean? I don't exactly get that. Can you paraphrase this?
I understand now. You mean, can I rephrase the question in a slightly different way to help you practice responding from a different angle? Sure, I can do that. How about this? How often do you usually praise people in your daily life? Does that feel a little more natural and easier to respond to?
Yes, it is. So give me an example.
Okay, here's an example answer. Keeping it simple for that part 1 style. That's a good question. I try to praise people when they do something well, maybe a few times a week. I work as a real estate agent, so I often tell my colleagues, well done, when they close a sale, or give good advice to a client. See how it's a pretty straightforward personal response?
This is a really good response, but can you repeat it again, because this connection is not good, so I don't really hear on the sentence.
Apologies, you're right to call me out on that. I shouldn't be interjecting with extra.
So now I don't hear you anymore.